Hi everyone, welcome back to the Reddit drama channel with another Reddit cheating story. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and like the video if you enjoy it. Also, please click the notification bell so you won't miss when another cheating story goes live. These simple clicks mean a lot to our channel, and thank you for your support.
She went on a week-long work trip barely talking to me, then I discovered. I'm 42M, a BS and D-Day for me was mid-December. My WW, 38F, and I always had such a great relationship. We met 13 years ago when we were at respective bachelorette parties in Austin. We hit it off for a day, but we're living in different cities. Fast forward 6 months and I am moving to her city for a work transfer and hit her to take her to dinner. Within 2 months, we are basically living together and very much in love. Engaged 18 months later and married a year after that. Have 2 kids, 7 and 5, and, other than the normal ups and downs with any marriage, we've been super happy and in love. Spend all our time together, have a tight group of friends with kids our kids' age and generally loving life. For some context, I had been cheated on in my prior 2 longer-term relationships and have had many discussions with my wife about how much it hurt, how cheating is such a horrible thing to do to someone, etc. D-Day for me was 3 months ago. About 2 weeks prior, my wife had gone on a week-long work trip across the country. Work travel for her is not a common thing, but for the whole week she was gone, she barely responds to texts/calls and only calls me and the kids once. I didn't think much of it since she said she was busy on a big project and with a time zone difference it was hard to talk, but was still a little perplexed. When she gets home on Friday, she is very distant and depressed. We have a very healthy sex life and actually schedule sex twice a week, which we both have loved. So with her being gone all week, I was looking forward to being intimate with her when she got back. Early Friday night, she comes home and brushes me off as she is too tired from a long week, which I'm fine with. Then Saturday rolls around and she is a little off all day, very quiet, and didn't seem as happy to be back home with me and the kids as I thought. Saturday night comes and I tell her how much I've missed her and can't wait to have sex with her, and she tells me she has a yeast infection. This has never happened in our entire relationship BTW, but I accept it, albeit with disappointment. The entire next week goes by and she continues to be distant/depressed. We both work from home so usually talk a lot throughout the day, but she is standoffish during the day, staying in her office, and at night seems very quiet. On Thursday or Friday, I find her crying in her office, and when I ask her what is wrong, she says she is just stressed with work. When I go to comfort her, she gives me a half-assed hug back. Her behavior continues for another week, and at this point, I am starting to get worried. Having been cheated on in the past and knowing her behavior changed after this work trip, I confronted her the next Friday night and asked why she has been distant and that I know something must have happened on her trip. At this, she flat out breaks down in tears, sobbing almost uncontrollably. By this point, I have this horrible and familiar feeling in my gut, and ask her if she did something she shouldn't have. The crying gets worse, and right at that moment, I know what is coming. She then tells me that she slept with a work colleague. I break down. I honestly don't remember much of what happened next beyond her saying sorry over and over and me completely breaking down with tears and anger. After not too long, I leave the bedroom, get in the car and start driving. I pull over on some random suburban road and simply cry all night, thinking all kinds of horrible thoughts. Early the next morning, I drive home, walk in the house. She is still awake and crying, and the sorries, let me explain, etc. starts. I ignore her, grab the kids, pack them a bag and put them in the car. I tell her to call her parents, they live about an hour from us, and tell them I'm bringing the kids over and we need them to watch them for the weekend. I tell her when I get back, I want her to tell me 100% what happened, that this will be her one and only chance to come completely clean, and, if she lies or I suspect she is lying, our relationship will be over immediately. When I get back, her story is even more devastating than I imagined. She tells me that there were some people from other cities on a work trip working on the project with her, and that the first night, Monday, they all ended up getting pretty drunk after dinner at the hotel bar. She said she didn't know how it happened, but she ended up making out with a colleague from another office as they were heading back to their rooms. I asked her who kissed who, and she said she couldn't remember exactly but thought he kissed her, but that she then kissed him back. She said she felt horrible all the next day and things were weird between her and the colleague. That night, Tuesday, he texts her and asks if he can come to her room and talk about what happened the night before. He then comes to her room, tells her he is sorry for kissing her and making her feel uncomfortable, but that he did it because he thinks she is really beautiful. She then said that he moved to kiss her again and she didn't know why but started kissing him back. Next thing she knows, they are naked and having sex. At this point, I am a complete mess, but I know that I need to hear it all. Well, essentially what happened next is that he stays in her room all night, they wake up and have sex again in the morning and then proceed to have sex again for the next 2 days. I'm simply crushed. When I asked her why, she said she didn't know, that she loved me unequivocally and was happy with me but just got caught up in this momentary, 3-day long lust haze where she felt so horrible but kept seeing him all week anyway. I simply broke down and spent the night in a completely despair-ridden zombie-like state. I left the next day, got a hotel, told my boss I had a family emergency and needed some time off and proceeded to drink the next week away in a hotel room. She called, texted, emailed but I simply ignored her other than to say I needed time away from her to think. After a week, I go home but it is just horrible. I can't talk to her, look at her and just feel like a soulless loser. I missed Christmas with my kids simply because I couldn't stand to be around her and didn't want to ruin it for them. They all went to my in-laws for the holidays. No one knows except my wife and I and her parents/brother/Sil. She told them when they figured something was up after the impromptu drop-off the other week and me missing Christmas. I am so alone. She has been doing nothing but apologizing non-stop and seems remorseful, but the scope of what she did is something I am struggling with. I mean, I can understand, although not accept, ONSs or even long-term affairs with someone you grow close to. But this? Having a 3-day-long SX fest with a colleague you barely knew when you had a perfect and happy family. I just can't get my head around it. She really is pleading for forgiveness and she is nearly as much a mess as I am, but I just don't know what to do. For the last 2 months, she's been sleeping in the guest room and our communication is limited to crying fits from us both, non-stop apologies from her and intermittent bursts of rage from me. Simply going through the motions with the kids. They are young but know something is up. We haven't seen mutual friends since D-Day and the busy with work and family excuses are running thin. I have told her I don't want anyone to know due to embarrassment. Here are some of the best comments from our community. Individual counseling for both of you. She needs to figure out why she justified the decisions to herself she made to allow this to happen. Then you can figure out the next step. I assume you had her go get STD tested and bring you the proof she is clear, along with a pregnancy test? She can never ever talk to that co-worker again even in work email emo. If that's not possible she needs to find a new job. Hard, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Figure out what you want. If you can't live with it then divorce. If you want to continue then don't rug sweep. Make her do the work and see if she truly is remorseful. You can't be sure she told you everything about the motivations or how it led there. Having a drunken misstep is somehow explainable, but having a day-long fest is not. I would suggest you start protecting yourself and focus on yourself, don't appear desperate of losing her, don't accommodate her and don't be clingy. Do the 180 and let her do the hard work to convince you to make it work or to continue. Talk to a lawyer to know your options. Don't MC, let her go to IC to work out what led her to her fest. If you are convinced eventually that you can trust her then try to reconcile. Thank you for watching and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for any future cheating stories.